It's Tuesday, September 7th. I am I woke up thinking I needed to move my car. I mean, this whole past week, there was this pull, like, go move your car, go move your car. And because I wasn't feeling well, I didn't. I should have listened. I should have listened. Like, I walked like the 4 blocks away because this last time took a while to find a spot. And I wasn't feeling good that morning. That was like the first morning where I got all the symptoms. And I wasn't feeling good, and I had ended my conversation with Gary, and I needed to call him back. and I remember the sign on the bottom saying, having that. So some of the streets have like the time block, right, of when you're not supposed to park there for the street sweeping. In addition to that, most streets in a residential area have a section underneath where it'll say 1 hour parking only or 2 hour parking only from Monday through Saturday, between this time and this time, unless you have a residential parking permit. I looked into this permit with my landlord, and he said, we don't have it because the street that we happen to live on used to be a commercial street, and so it was never listed as a residential street. So we don't have access to that. So, I looked around. I'm like, I don't see anybody with like a parking pass. So, the street that I found parking, because I wasn't feeling good, excuse me, I had like whatever time, I don't even remember the day. I get there and I'm like a day early. But I remember it did say, like, unless you have a parking permit, right? You can only park there for 1 hour. And this whole week, there's been this pull, like, go move your car, and I didn't. So, lo and behold, I show up, and sure enough, I got my first golden ticket. And so I'm like, okay, it's official. I anticipated that, right? I expected it. I mean, the good thing is that they don't charge you like on the hour, right? Every hour on the hour that you haven't moved your car. Because I looked at the date of the ticket, and it was September 3rd, 4 days ago. So I got my first golden ticket. But I had already planned, like, I'm gonna drive away for an hour or so and come back. So I'm like, well, where haven't I been, right? Where haven't I gone? Knowing that I wasn't gonna go out, like, I wasn't going to really, I wasn't really gonna go outside of my car because I'm sick, right? I'm trying quarantine, and I only left because I knew I needed to move my car, knowing that wherever I was gonna go, I was gonna stay in my car. So I realized I hadn't been to the Palace of the Fine Arts, I think is what it's called. The Palace of Fine Arts. And I vaguely remember going there once before and wanting to go back. And I'm glad that I did because it's so beautiful. I just wish I could have gone outside to walk. So I sat there for a while. And I took my laptop, and I'm still working on these birth charts for these loved ones, right? And I took some stuff and updating some documents and still reflecting at the same time on this statement, right? This I am a messenger with the soul of a master ruler, wearing the mask of a diplomat, and sin with it. wondering how many other people have this combination, right? Like, I'm like, okay, there's has to be some type of mathematical component to this, where there's 12 zodiac signs with 12 archetypes, right? And this is a three-piece statement, right? How many combinations, right, can you have total, and then multiply that by the number of people on earth, right? Like, there's got to be more people with that same statement. And if so, what are they doing, right? And do people even know? Then that was another question. It's just like, well, how many people know that that's a part of who they are, right? Entertaining the idea, of course, that there's validity to this. So last night I stayed up. Still working on this, birth chart class, and then taking pauses, right? And then exploring a little bit more on my own, and coming across this I think they're friends, a couple of friends. They're both astrologers on YouTube. They're called Cups and Crowns, I think. And I don't have my laptop on me, but I remember when I was learning a little bit about like cardinal signs and stuff like that, like I liked how they presented the information, and the videos were really short. So I watched, like, what's a zodiac sign, just the basics, and I really liked how they. So I'll put the links to the videos that I watched, right? But then they're talking, and these are videos that they posted in 2018, so it's not that long ago. But I liked how they just presented the information. And there's this one video where it talks about like just the validity of astrology, and how it's still, there's still this challenge with seeing it as a science. And so then I started thinking, well, a lot of this quest is to kind of explore, right? Like, is there validity to this? And I mean, I can only speak from personal experience as to how this birth chart has really impacted my life, and how it's been helpful in raising my own self-awareness, right? In terms of behavior patterns and things that I do and things that I struggle with. And then once I got that awareness, I started seeing it in all of these other situations. So now that you see something, you can't unsee it. So then all you're left to do is having to do something about it, right? Or completely dismissing it, saying it's a load of crap, or somewhere in between. So I thought, well, okay, right, thinking about this message still, right, this statement, and then thinking about the first birth chart reading that I paid to get done. So then I thought, well, what if, for me, in terms of validation for me, right? Well, what if I went to 3 to 5 different astrologers, asked the same questions for each one? Will I get the same response? Will I get the same response? The same area of focus? Or will they just provide the same type of information, right? In terms of the validity of how this information is gathered and put together. And then there's the element of interpretation, right? How they interpret it, because there is this sense of like the person, because they were talking about how with astrology, and I don't know if it was with astrology or if it was with birth charts. I have to go back because this was last night. You don't need, what did they say? You don't need, because they were talking about how just because you look at astrology doesn't mean that you have to like know tarot or be a palm reader or anything like that. Like, it's a separate thing by itself. And so then you don't need these other components to be able to do this. That anybody with the awareness of how to use this tool, right, can put it together for someone. And then it's just a matter of the interpretation of the information, right? And then you don't really need to be in the presence of someone to really get the information. I remember them saying that. So it has nothing to do with the person itself, but just the mathematical piece of it, right? So I'm like, okay. So if I go to 4 different astrologers, pay them, will I get the same information? Will like they come to the same conclusion? Yeah. So that's what I was thinking. That's what I was thinking. Wondering. And so this statement, I am a messenger, with the soul of a master ruler, wearing a mask of a diplomat. I mean, I got a little emotional on the way, on the drive back from the Palace of Fine Arts, just still sitting with it, right? And there's still validation in what this old colleague friend shared with me last fall, in terms of what she said my purpose was, or one of my many purposes. And it just, it validates it to a certain degree. And there's still a part of me that's still kind of in denial about it. Like, really, really, really. and then, yeah. And so I sat with that information as I meditated, just coming in. So I found a parking spot. So okay. So I come back and I'm like, all right, maybe, like, I really don't want to mess with this parking situation. I parked across the street. The sweeper's supposed to be walking by, or I don't know if it already passed. And as I'm sitting there, I stayed in my car with the car turned on in case it shows up. I could just take off. But I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm becoming one of those people. Because I remember walking out of the house and seeing someone else parked in their car, and they're just parked there, and I'm just like, I wonder what they're waiting for. And I'm like, they're waiting for this sweeper to pass by so they could leave their car there. So I was just like thinking about that. I'm like, I've become one of those people who are sitting in their car, who got here an hour early, right? I got there at 10. And it's supposed to be a no parking space through 11 because of this street sweeper. And then I'm seeing the street sweeper at the corner pass by, like, the main street off of Harrison, and I see the police person, like, or ticket person, right behind them. And I'm like, crap, I hope they like get distracted for an hour and they don't come this way so I can leave my car here, and that'd be nice because then I don't have to worry about it for a whole week. That's funny. So then, so I'm in my car, and oh yes, I parked it. So I left. I came in fine. So it's funny because I'm in my car, and then I see someone else pull up, like 2 cars behind me. They totally like leave their car, and I'm just like, I'm a little not as confident right now because I got this golden ticket. So then another lady comes and she parks behind me. She sits in her car too. So I'm just like, all right, I'm just gonna sit here for a bit. Then she eventually, after like 10 minutes, she eventually gets out. So I'm like, okay, it's getting close to 10:30. Maybe I'll be safe by now. Because there were plenty of other cars, and I always wondered, I'm like, some of those cars don't move. Like, how is it they don't move? And then you become familiarized with a lot of the cars in the neighborhood. You're like, I saw that one parked on the other side, right? So there's a sense of home. Like, okay, you're trying to find parking too. You're not alone. You're not alone in that either, right? It's funny. But anyways, I came in. I started meditating. Still with that heaviness of like that statement and what it means. What could it mean, right? And is it really what this other person told me last fall? Thinking and reminding myself, this person wouldn't lie to me. This person wouldn't lie to me. And I reached out to her too. I had reached out to her before, and she had a lot of stuff going on, and I just wanted to tell her that I was thinking about her, and I hope she was okay. And so, yeah. But I was still sitting with it as I was meditating. And I tear up a little. And then I see the waves. And I see the purple. And then there's movement around. Just movement. And then there's this stronger movement from the top corner, and it's like pushing down. But there was this sense of I took it as like patting. Like, don't worry. That's how I took it. Like, and it was just doing this, the patting, this gentle patting. And then it was interesting. I don't remember if there was something that happened before this other movement, but it's just what I remember. So there's this motion, right? This slow motion like this. And then at the bottom, it like starts at the movement starts at the center, and it's pushing out, and then it's rising up. So it's doing something like this, and then rising up, going like this, rising up. And it did that for a while, and it's rising up, and it was starting from the center, at the bottom center. So so the middle part is blank, but it's the bottom center pushing out and then rising up, pushing out and then rising up. And then it shifted to the right side, so future, pushing back, and it would just go halfway, and then it'd go back. And it did that for a while by itself. And then I'd see the corner, left corner, kind of move out like this, like expand just in the corner. And so then this would come, and then this would kind of go do that. And then this would do that, and this would do that, like expand. And then that stopped. And then eventually this side started doing the same movement as this one, but just coming this way. And the light in the center, there was a point where it wasn't just purple. The light in the center was gold with purple around it. So I thought that was an interesting combination. I hadn't seen like where it starts in the center, but it pushes out and then up. That was the first. Or just that combination in itself was I don't remember seeing something like that before. But I know like this one felt more like patting, like don't worry. Like don't stress yourself out. That's what it felt like. Don't stress. And then there was a point where I was trying to figure out like, well, what does this other one mean? And there was like almost a sense of resistance where like this side was like coming in, and then the one that was going out like this was just like like there was a sense of like, are you resisting it type of thing. And then eventually it like started kind of this. So it was interesting. I mean, I'm gonna be listening to the tarot readings to see if anything resonates in terms of like the movement, like I mentioned before, that when I first started seeing the movement and trying to figure out what it meant, I know Chris from Minnow Pond was very helpful, because he would like, there was like certain words that he would use, and then it would stick for me. I'm like, that's what it was, that's what it felt like. But because I didn't know how to interpret it, and still I sometimes still don't, like I'm just describing what I see with the hopes that there's a connection, and usually there is, a connection. If not now, then when I post. Sometimes yeah. But I feel better. I feel better, which is good. But I'm still going to quarantine as much as I can out. Now I don't have to worry about my car, hopefully. I mean, I'll probably go out just to make sure, but I'm pretty sure I'll be fine for at least another week. Probably log on to work right now and just see if there's anything I need to do. My next client isn't until 5. So I'm hoping that I get at least 4 more clients today, or this week, new clients. And that this gradual increase of 4 continues. And then I need to figure out how I'm going to pay for this lovely golden ticket that I got. The adventures continue. Adventures continue. Alright, it's 11. I'm gonna eat something. And, yeah. On a side note, you know when you decide to have spiders for pets, wild spiders, you know, I warn them and I tell them, don't scare me. You can live here, but don't scare me. And we were doing just fine until this morning when I looked and Charlotte wasn't there anymore. And then I found a new little one and I called her Patitas. And she's gone too. So I wonder if they stayed in the restroom where they were supposed to stay. If not, I'll be looking up because that was the one thing I told them. Do not scare me by coming down on my face. Or we're calling it. That's it. So hopefully they show up. That's all. My name is Yubi, and in case you haven't figured it out, this footage is capturing my experience as I learn to navigate my personal spiritual awakening. I am learning that this experience is unique to each one of us. In whatever way we believe we are embracing living our truth, this just happens to be my journey. And despite me having a graduate degree and a license in clinical social work, this by no means is intended to replace any type of mental health advice. This is just me on a personal level, documenting my experience, shedding light on the truth that I am learning and discovering for myself, and really inviting you along for the ride. If by some magical chance you find this content to be helpful in any way, shape, or form, please click the like button, share the message, subscribe to my YouTube channel. I have an Instagram account, a personal one, and one specifically for this channel that you're more than welcome to check out. I'm an open book. I have also created t-shirt designs. I'm wearing my favorite one right now, which is the North Node design, but I have that and other things that you can look at inspired by this process and journey, and I have the link in the description box as well as in the about section of my YouTube channel. So you're more than welcome to check those items out. Any type of support is great. Again, if you find this content really helpful or meaningful, sometimes when we take that step and be vulnerable, with showing what's inside our hearts and what's really our truth, we realize that we're much more connected than what we thought we were. And so I hope that as I'm living this experience and that you find some type of truth for yourself or find some type of ability to heal in some way just by relating, just by knowing that you're not alone. That really has been my goal with this process, not just being able to connect with others, but really for my own healing. It's definitely been a therapeutic experience and a very creative one for myself. So I thank you, and I wish you all the best, and we'll see what else comes next for me.